Welcome, dear faithful, to the podcast that dives into the sabotage, betrayal, and murder of the current season of the Traitors. We are your Trader Joes. Hello, TJ. How are y'all doing? How are the dolls today? The Trader dolls.
Trader dolls are dolling.
The Trader dolls are in mourning.
The Trader dolls are in mourning. That's absolutely true. Ugh,
The dolls are mourning. We are have an appointment with Phaedra. It took me a minute. We have an appointment at the
at her funeral home.
Her funeral home.
Her fabulous funeral home. Well, we are here with somber energy for episode 5. And I'm going to say, I mean, it's always the classic podcast curse of like, once you talk about something,
It comes true.
It comes true in the worst way possible the next time. So we'll get right into it. But first, what's your Joe this morning? Are you served up any Joes this morning?
I'm having a Topo Joe.
Oh,
A fancy Topo Joe. So a tangerine and ginger Joe.
it's just like I didn't know Topos come in.
It's
in
giving.
cans anymore.
This is like Topo's version of Spindrift. It's giving juice.
Oh, it's juice. So not
Juiced up.
Juiced up Joe.
there's no like caffeine or any
No,
gags
no
like that?
caffeine.
Okay.
No, just sparkling water and flavor.
Amazing. What about
And
you,
I'm on
Jeff?
kind of my usual, just a little shot of espresso.
A little shot of espresso.
Double shot.
I'm
you?
enjoying a pistachio pandan latte from Collectivo, a Midwestern favorite.
Never had.
Yes, it's a Wisconsin cafe kind of conglomerate that has spread through Chicago neighborhoods, and I love it. They also have a great cold brew oat chata.
Yeah, I would have that.
We like that.
That Adam gets all the time, and they have it on draft, so it's nice and easy.
Oh yeah, I'd be having.
Yeah.
I
also have a breakfast sandwich, so I might put.
Oh yeah, y'all had a late night. I heard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We did.
We won't reveal what time we're recording, but
Yes, I mean you'll see in the last 2 episodes it went from day to night. This episode guaranteed it will stay day.
Very bright. It's very bright out there.
it's early
It is
today.
very
Early for
bright.
the Joes.
Yes, I think appropriate.
Yeah.
It's Joe time. All right, let's get into this episode. We are
we do
here
it?
with episode 5. Where did we last leave off? Jeff's gonna take us through breakfast as I eat mine.
Perfect.
Yeah, everyone can eat their breakfast or snack.
It's a
during this
brunch
segment.
conversation.
Yeah,
It's a brunch Joe.
Brunch pod.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start by flashing back to where we left off in the turret, and Parvati. Parvati says that she was calling out the housewives primarily to get Larsa out, which I believe.
I do believe that too. Yeah.
She didn't want to get Phaedra mad or like pretending to be mad at the round table. And Phaedra has, more lines we saw in the previous episode. She says, I'm not an actress. Don't do that with my name.
Okay.
I think she's acting though. She's not an actress, but she's certainly acting.
You're acting in the show. You have to pretend
Very.
you're faithful.
If-
You're
Yeah.
acting.
If there is a camera on, you're performing.
They're acting.
You're
Yes.
You're performing.
Yeah.
So, Parvati kind of gives kind of like a little, she throws a little bone to Phaedra and says, I took the lead with Ekansu, I'm going to hand over control for this murder to you, Phaedra. So let's see what you want to do this time, kind of as a peace offering. Phaedra starts talking about Sandra or Tamra, which is funny. She gets so upset about the housewives at the round table, but then she's throwing out Tamra's name up here in the turret. She says she wants to cause confusion. And that's kind of what we end on for the opening
turrets.
scene.
What do you think about how did you kind of take in the post Parvati Phaedra? I think it makes sense. I think like Parvati definitely was just like trying to focus on
Yeah,
on
she
Larsa.
did what she needed to do. I think Phaedra saying I want to cause confusion is she really needs to figure out how to make sure the discussion doesn't still linger on
her.
it's still it could still be a housewife. So if another housewife goes, which is why I think Tamara's name is drawn up, because what we're left with is Phaedra, Sheree, and Tamara. I think if Phaedra's gonna pick who to keep, she's gonna keep Sheree.
Keep Sheree, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a moment later that after the breakfast when it happens, Janelle kind of says like, the housewives aren't together. Like they've already kind of like said that like it was Larsa, that's nipped in the bud. The housewives are just here. So it's very interesting that basically Phaedra gets away with this.
Yes.
That she gets, you know.
Yeah, Phaedra's name does not come up this entire episode.
Absolutely not.
It's almost maddening.
I know.
It's like she actually might be playing well, and I think given the episode we just watched, I'm mad about it.
Yeah. I mean, compared to the last episode where, you know, Parvati and Dan were like, we need to do something on Phaedra, that storyline did not appear at all in this week's episode.
I genuinely think I think because of the heat that's so strong on Dan and Parvati, Dan more than Parvati, I think they've just really accepted that like Phaedra is unclockable in this game. She is there's nothing there, you know?
Yeah, and I would argue though that Parvati's probably best positioned at this moment because clearly Dan's name is out there. Phaedra's had this at least one experience at the round table where like the housewives are a big deal, and then like nothing on Parv right now. So yeah, the three of them aren't doing a bad job.
They're not. They're
able to I think they're able to recover really quickly, which is because they have this understanding, and Phaedra continues to say, especially in the turret, like, I'm on board, I'm a team player. And so they leave these discussions aligned, and I think that that's what's keeping them kind of episode to episode safe right now, is that despite whatever they might feel, like they all agree to do things a certain way.
Right.
Yep.
And I think in the last season too, the downfall of the traitors that get busted, it's because they make like a huge mistake that gets caught.
Loose lips, and these three are too smart for that.
I think so. They're too smart to. It's gonna be people that really kind of sniff out just like doing math in their minds.
At this point, it's the numbers are dwindling.
So then we move into breakfast. And, you know, in breakfast, CT and Janelle are the first in. Janelle says, I've never been the first to breakfast. She's very excited. She kind of touches on what we just discussed. Like, she does not see a strategy in the Housewives game at all. Next up, Peter and John walk in. You know, Peter starts the trend of saying that he suspects that Dan is a traitor. We've also kind of learned in the postseason that, like, Janelle and Peter are pretty friendly. So
they're both from Minnesota. She was talking about, she had a great
Peter's from Minnesota.
She had a great Instagram Q&A last night.
Yes, I saw
yesterday,
the stories.
I think kind of like, you know, the response to the episode, and one of them, she says that like they were in the car together as they arrived. They're both from Minnesota. They have a lot in common. They both have lake houses, you know, like so much in common.
It's so funny because we're so much more in the Big Brother front that I'm sure Bachelor Nation listening to us are like, what do you mean you didn't know Peter had a lake house?
How do you know he wasn't from Minnesota, right?
You guys.
But I also think for Janelle, like the Big Brother people, the Survivor people, like she's known them for so long that she's like, I don't need to make new friends. Like, let me pick up a few more to kind of keep expanding my cachet here. And, you know, the Tamara stuff, the Peter stuff. So, you know, she's planting seeds.
She is. She's trying to get longevity.
She's you know, she's a realtor. She's generating leads.
Exactly. She is generating leads. Janelle is fully like, this bubble is about to burst, and I need to make sure that the check is secured if I need to make more appearances.
Selling Minnesota.
What a
selling
you know
selling
who will
Twin
not
Cities.
be a producer on that is Kevin.
Speaking of, Kevin walks in next, and Janelle also comments that she thought it could have been Kevin who was murdered and was surprised to see him. Then we have Bergie and Parv. You know, Bergie also talks about Peter being his closest ally at this point. Then
surprising to no one. Birds of a feather.
Then Sheree and Dan come in, followed by MJ. So we're seeing a lot smaller individuals or groupings of people like making entrances this episode. Next up we have Trishelle. Brandon said she was giving a big dumb hat.
Big dumb hat. Yeah, she came in with that big Coachella hat.
Trishelle has been so interesting because after the first episode with Pep, it kind of I think genuinely actually humbled her, and she's really shut up for the
She played
show.
that Big Brother game where when you come in, you totally mess up the first week, you end up on the block basically.
Yeah.
You survive, and then you go off the radar. It's just it knocks you some sense into you, and I think she has appropriately adjusted, and she's kind of playing a little bit behind Janelle, behind CT. She's working those relationships. I'm glad she chilled out a little bit. Doesn't change what she did.
Totally.
But big dumb hat for sure.
Yeah.
She had to carry that on.
She had to.
She shipped that.
You think they had storage tubs of outfits they had to bring, I'm
I'm sure it's not because famously in Drag Race, it's you get 3 bags and you gotta fit everything in there. So I'm curious.
Unless you live in LA.
Unless you live in LA and you can sneak in a tub. But everyone gets really creative. But
and on that topic, we're gonna get a lot of Janelle this episode. Janelle also mentioned in her Q&A last night that
she did.
You saw this, that most people worked with stylists, but she did not. She did not work with a stylist, but she's never owned so much plaid and tweed, she said, which is reflected in this.
Yeah.
Yes,
in these
totally. I mean,
photos.
it definitely, her styling in the show makes sense. It makes sense that she would wear
professional
this.
tweed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's what I would wear, but because it's in Scotland, let me just add a little
throw some plaid on it. Yeah.
I feel like she kind of called Rachel from last year and toned it down and
was
customized
what was
the look.
What was the look?
What was the vibe?
Famous besties. Famously besties.
Oh my gosh. So then the last 3 not present are Sandra, Phaedra, and Tamra.
Yes.
And then
Which makes sense because we know Phaedra's fine.
We know Phaedra's fine. We know that Sandra was kind of under consideration for murder. So then Phaedra and Sandra walk in together. So that means Tamra's murdered.
Tamra is out. So
I'm
I am already.
surprised.
We literally said in the last episode, I think Tamra and Janelle are going to catch on and they're going to
Oh my
last.
gosh.
We're never saying stuff like that ever again. We're not saying that
all of
anymore.
my predictions so far.
I guess they have a connection because they both
They both go out the
left at
same episode.
time. Yeah, they spent a lot of time in the hotel.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, they shared a ride to the
sequester.
airport.
Yeah.
Well, do you think they stay the entire length of the show, or
I think they went home early, just based on I think people kind of sussing out social
social media?
returns.
Yeah.
Which I didn't pay too much attention to for this reason, but I think they went home.
I
don't
think
feel
these
like the
longer
production-
days in the first episode, because I feel like the days are shorter when it gets to closer to the end of the season.
Yeah. So Phaedra, kind of gives us the why. She says, this will bring confusion. It has to happen. Dan and Poverty are very happy, with this. You get kind of an emotional reaction from Phaedra, or from Tamra.
Yes.
In her
So here's the
confessional.
thing. I genuinely think she was having fun.
Yeah,
That's
she's
the
having
thing. With these housewives, they get to do something so crazy and bonkers that it's this is this summer camp for a lot of these people.
It was this weird kind of reaction of the stakes really weren't that high for her.
No.
And I think that's why she was having fun, which probably says a lot about kind of does she need the money or not? Maybe. Probably not.
No,
but,
I don't think any of these people really do. Parvati allegedly does. 'Cause she
Probably
needs-
not. Yeah. But she was she was having fun. And, she had made it a certain amount of time. And so.
Yes, totally. I think if Tamara was one of the earlier outs, I think it would have really destroyed her.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of when Brandy left too. It's
very similar.
Similar energy.
Yeah.
I think they are genuinely having fun here. So
Yeah.
I would love an all Housewives
Oh my
Traitors.
gosh.
It would
Could
be
you imagine?
amazing.
I don't know because I think that.
Or just play Mafia at Real Housewives.
Just play it at a
Girls Trip.
reunion.
Just play Mafia at
But
a reunion.
did you see the tweet I sent of that? I think it was from Louis Vertel, where he said let them stay and play and watch just like a game of Mafia, because
yes.
no one's gonna no one leaves the house after a game of Mafia. I imagine
Yeah.
they all just hang out and watch. And I think I actually think that could be pretty good. They sit on the outside of the round table. I don't know. I think it would be.
Yes, or just ghosts. You can't speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Just observers.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does say that it's way worse than Housewives, and she hopes that a traitor, one of the traitors who got
Was
her,
not
are
a
not
housewife.
housewives.
Yeah.
She's in for a treat.
I know. And she said, she was like, can't wait to see Phaedra at the reunion.
They're
and so
fine.
it's,
I don't
that's
suspect there'll be
therefore,
any bad blood.
I do not think at all any of the housewives are pressed. I think at the end of the show, my prediction is that when Sheree finds out that it's Phaedra, it's gonna be fun. I don't think it's gonna be drama.
Yeah, and maybe Sheree will be at the end.
And maybe
Oh my
Sheree will be
gosh.
the end. At this
She
point,
could-
I think
What if
Sheree
it's just
is gonna
Sheree
be
and
Andy.
Phaedra?
Oh my gosh.
They'll probably split the money.
Yeah, I think so.
Sandra asks why Tamra, and she doesn't really understand. And then we get kind of a little iconic moment at
It's
breakfast.
so. This clip has gone viral in like the day.
This is my new best Phaedra clip from
Yeah,
the season.
Phaedra, like they're all sad. Sandra goes, "Wow," and Phaedra just goes, "Are there any boiled eggs?"
She's
In like a
concerned about-
huffing.
I think
like,
this
it's
is
so
actually
funny.
where they eat breakfast, which I guess they do, but like who's counting on this to be an actual meal?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it looks so proppy, right? Like it looks like
Very.
a lot of these is fake, but it's like no, they really dish out. Fergus is out there baking croissants,
Oh my
scrambling and
gosh.
boiling eggs. Fergus is
He comes early to start the coffee.
Yeah.
absolutely.
You gotta start
absolutely.
early.
Or unpack the catering.
Yeah, I think that.
Or like catering. In.
he directs them and he tells them where to set up.
So that's a great moment. Are there any boiled eggs? Then we get
there any
Alan.
boiled eggs?
Alan walking in. He has a pretty good line. A real housewife lost her real house life. Wow.
Poetry.
Iconic. Poetry.
From the Drag Race School of Puns.
Yeah.
Very much that. And then for the first time, I think this season, we get a frame throw, which
Thank God.
we've been wanting a frame throw.
Genuinely, people were. They were acting as if people actually died.
I know. This was the first one that didn't feel so serious.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what the show needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
true. This
Yeah.
is not what's her name?
Larsa.
Larsa.
Larsa lamenting her husband.
Tamalka.
Malcolm.
Or
Marcus.
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 See?
How quickly
girl,
we forget.
We're a mess.
we are a mess. We're so distraught in grief.
Very. But, Alan teases to the group that someone is arriving at the house later in the day. Of course, we know because they told us on
They
social
told
media,
us like 2 weeks
unfortunately,
ago.
that
Oh my
Kate was
gosh, who could it
coming.
be?
But, the faithfuls and the traitors get a little hint there. So then we kind of have the post-breakfast discussions. CT immediately goes for Dan and says, give me a theory. Like, we need to get something out of you, Dan, which is kind of becoming a theme this episode of like, Dan's not talking or giving names to anybody, and they want him to talk, right? Of course, Dan immediately says he didn't want to throw out a name yet, which is a little suspicious.
What do you think of this Dan analysis?
I understand. Well, I don't think Parvati and Phaedra are throwing out names either, or at least we're not seeing them. So none of these three people are really offering up names in these
Yeah.
discussions. So what that makes me think or wonder is that he's not engaging
It's
in
not
discussions
engaging,
about people, and people are starting to catch on.
Because I
And
think you're
At
right.
least Phaedra's like, like I think Phaedra's just like
Yes.
playing along a little more. Parvati's clearly like having discussions with people if someone like Peter later on is approaching her. But I think
She'll-
Dan is so
Is so
clearly so
nothing.
quiet and so nooch that he's like people are catching on. And I think like if this is the game and people are noticing it, it's gotta be a problem. Like
Totally.
and if people are willing, I don't know.
I agree. I mean, like with Parvati, right? Like she ran with the Larsa name. I think Phaedra also, like, she's reacting to different names and like, oh yeah, I think they did that or they did this. And in the round table is very open and like
And I think
she's playing a role. So
Phaedra's just got enough cover with other people who, if Phaedra's name were to come out, like someone like Sheree would be like, no, it's not her. It's fine. We're
Yeah.
good. But everyone, Dan has this, he has this track record. He has this reputation for playing a certain way and doing well that people are just putting those two things together and starting
And
to
that's the thing.
suspect him.
when Janelle connected those dots, she was like, Dan is playing exactly like how he's played in the 2 games that I've seen him in and in the game that I watched him in, where he will lay low because he wants to see how everything plays out. And then once the numbers are finally to his advantage, then he'll attack.
Then he'll strike.
And it was truly at this episode where I noticed that so much. I mean, obviously because they edited it to show you that. But if I really would think if I was in this situation and I was in this game and I would watch like 2-3 days of Dan, I would be like, oh, he's literally doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting?
It's a little
He's
too
doing
obvious.
the exact same thing, right?
And it still didn't happen. They still didn't get it.
And I think, so after this episode, there was a Twitter thread going on of like, what's that one Big Brother clip? And so everyone's just posting Big Brother clip. And the clip from season 10 was just like every fight, all the Keisha birthday situation. And Dan was never involved in any of the fights that I was like, this is how he won. Everyone was so volatile in his season that like he really just had to lay low. And so I think that kind of like cemented how he obviously plays.
Approaches. Yeah. And it's definitely inspired a lot of future strategies. Like there are a lot of people who attempt to play in a similar way. The Dan strategy, the quiet, the lay low. It's just
but I think
when you're surrounded by people who know it, it's really hard. It's harder. But I think that we'll have to break down how Janelle went after it, and I really think that like I don't think Janelle did the rallying slowly and strategically I don't think she made a great case. She just relied on I know, trust me.
Yes.
But she didn't like bring people, like let people kind of guide themselves there. And I think that in a game like this where you need numbers and you have to rally people, if you're working across like lines of like different shows and different like backgrounds and different like networks that you're coming from, like people are going to stand up. People are going to stick to what they know before they come across and join you. And I just don't think or at least we didn't see a lot of her building that coalition that it would have taken to get him out. And I want to believe that she knows how to do that better. I really want to know. I want to believe that she knows better, but I also really respect Janelle and how she plays. And like, it didn't work.
I know. I think it's.
I feel.
She
I'm
is just
so.
I know.
I've just been in a bad mood since
but
Thursday.
I think that's why she's a very. She's a very entertaining, like competitive reality contestant to root for because she is so unapologetically herself.
And I think that strategy never works. And I think I come to it every time, fall for it every time. Like
this is the one that she's gonna get.
This is her and I think she was at the top 3 twice. Like she has made it so far in Big Brother so many times in really good, strong seasons. And I think every time, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, like we want to see her finally, we want to see it work. We really want to see her win. And I think that's why even when she doesn't, no one is dragging her game online. No one.
Yeah.
No one is telling us that she messed up. No one is saying, why didn't you do this? They're just like, this is how you play. I respect the way you play. Slay, work while my house boots down. Like, see you on the next round.
See you in the next
Traitors
show.
All-Stars. Whatever.
Yeah, Traitors All-Stars.
All right, there will be more later. Sorry.
So, you know, Peter also points out the same things, thinks that Dan's been laying low, exactly what he'd do if he was a traitor. He also suspects Parvati and CT. So these people are suspecting CT, but they're very correct on Parvati and Dan.
Parvati and Dan, yeah, totally.
So then we get the outside discussions. You know, Phaedra says the wind is winding when she's outside, I think with maybe MJ. Then Kevin sort of brings up Janelle for the first time this episode. And this is where things kind of start to go off the rails for Janelle. You know, he says that she's giving weird traitor vibes and he's going to put her name up at the table. And of course, Dan is immediately going to pile onto this and use that heat against Janelle to his advantage. So then we get kind of the meeting of Dan and Janelle outside. And then in her confessional, Janelle kind of speaks to Dan playing this game of possum. Like we were just talking about, the same game that he was playing on BB. She can see all the moves and that it's just a matter of time before he's going to like jump to action when he can get the numbers on his side, which she was right, but like we were just saying, maybe she didn't tell people early enough.
I
Or
think
point it out and kind of let that. It's like that.
you got to let it fester.
Or you got to let people think that they're figuring it out themselves.
Yes.
And so that they're more willing. And I think MJ's the one who I'm like,
MJ was the one, wasn't
like,
it?
I'm so done with her because I went back and I had to remember that she already voted for Dan.
She already voted for
2
Dan.
episodes ago.
MJ
so
was
now
the
I'm
one.
even more pissed.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
MJ was the one, and I think I don't necessarily. I think obviously Janelle could have rallied better, but if she had gotten MJ, I think it would have worked.
Yeah, and I think there was like a missed opportunity in like what happened with Ek and Sue. It sounds like people seem to like really like Ek and Sue getting murdered, and then Janelle's kind of response to that. I think just that whole post Larsa, Ek and Sue. I think Janelle lost a lot of just clout in the house.
Too many strikes.
Too many things that were wrong, and yeah.
But it's so I'll have to talk about it in the round table. But Janelle says it in the round table later of like a traitor would not be so vocal.
Yeah.
And it's so
or so
interesting
wrong
because I feel like no one thinks that way, but that's how the game works, right? Like the traitors are laying low.
Yep.
So the traitors, they keep saying like, it's so smart to get the heat off of you. You just be loud and like tell it someone else. But no traitor has done that because that's not easy to do.
Janelle says you literally don't have to do anything, right?
You don't have to do anything. So look at the people that are not doing
anything. She also says, in relation to Dan, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
It's like I mean, this show is all about
self-fulfilling prophecies.
Fulfilling prophecies for themselves. Like it happened to Ekin-Su, it happened to Larsa.
Very, very. Then we move on to the mission.
Here we go.
All right. So today's mission, it didn't wow me, I will say. But there is this like theme of like there's some sort of listening challenge. It's like something outside happens, people inside. There's a group outside, group inside. The outside people are trying to transmit some sort of sound, some voice, some tune. In this case, it's bird calls. And the people inside have to find, throughout the house another version of that and then bring it to Alan. And if they do so, they'll add money to the pot. So that's the premise. But before that, I think there is like a big scramble around who's going to be inside and who's going to be outside. The reason being only the people outside are going to have access to shields. Mm-hmm. And so you've got people like MJ saying like, I've never had a chance. I really need it. You've got Janelle obviously putting her hand up saying like, if anybody needs a shield, it's me.
And we don't hear anyone argue with her.
No, we don't see anyone argue.
I know. They're just like, oh, well.
So she raises her hand. There's a scramble. MJ wants to do it. And Sandra, we have this great confessional from Sandra where she says, like, there need to be some shields in the house for the people who don't want to run around because Sandra's
for like Phaedra and I.
Sandra's and Phaedra's like choice points in these missions are all about like what's going to be the like least physically taxing because like we're not in a place where that's really what we want to do.
Yeah.
But it's really similar. We saw a similar challenge in the UK this season, obviously. And Alan has added on like a nice coat and hat with a beautiful peacock plumage, I think inspired by the birds, and then the undershirt to the suit, which I'm gonna talk about a little bit later.
When we see it in full bloom.
Yeah, full bloom. And I actually think you're gonna take the rest of this, right, RJ? Or am I gonna take the round table later? You're talking about me taking it, but
that's right. That's right.
I'll finish. You know what?
Just
you
do it.
You take it. Take it,
no,
RJ.
You run out there.
All right. So I didn't like this. I really didn't like this challenge. I just think,
but I do think the challenge, it was not fun. I mean, the fun was in the people looking for the shield.
Yeah. So I definitely think the best thing about this challenge was the finding the birds, but then also the like imitating these bird calls because they basically had to they would find a little like bird watching station. They listen for a bird call and then they have to radio back to the people inside what that bird call was. And I think that's where you got some of the best bits.
I think there were some good bits when they were all running into the house making the noise.
Yeah, CT running around.
You could tell this one was like the one where it was like, this is really silly, but we'll just like...
We're just going to ham it up.
We're going to ham it up.
Yeah, let's ham it up. Yeah. And, people have broken the ice, so, like, they feel comfortable being silly. And, like, there was a lot of, like, Alan just, like, deadpanning to the camera because of,
Very fourth wall. heartbreaking here.
Yes.
Yeah, being like, I can't believe I'm seeing a former House of whatever. So we get the three pairs in their bird gear. So the pairs are, let's talk to the pairs. So the pairs are Trishelle and Bergie, they're team the Redbirds. And these hats are
These hats are
some of these
so
things. It's like
silly.
I'm gonna search for a red hat, a red vest, and a red like buff on Amazon, and I'm gonna buy it, and then I'm gonna do the same thing in blue and the same thing in green. So we've got Bergie and Trishelle. The next pair is we've got Trishelle, we've got Sheree and who's next?
Sheree and Kevin.
Sheree and Kevin are next. They're team green, and then we've got
And then Peter and Janelle.
Peter and Janelle on team blue, and we do have some good moments between Peter and Janelle while they're searching. So Janelle and Peter obviously decide they're going to go right for the shield, so they head off, and basically they can go in whatever direction they want. But there is a special shield bird that the first pair there that gets it correct and finds it, they basically get 2 shields for themselves.
Yes.
And so Trishelle and Bergie and Peter and Janelle, they both like say they want to get to it. Sheree and Kevin, they try, but they can't make their way across that map.
No,
They cannot read a map.
there's a clip that's running viral too of Kevin being like, both Sheree and I suck at reading maps, and so they're literally just lost.
It's like
in the
the
forest.
two people just looking at each other saying exactly. I think that's the meme right now.
I saw one that was like they should go on the Amazing Race.
Oh my
Shouldn't
gosh.
have on the Amazing Race together.
That's exactly what it is. It's very that. So Trishelle and Bergie, here we've got them. They're the first ones to identify a bird. Definitely worth it. Then we've got there's
They decided they were not going to wear the hats.
oh yeah, Kevin and
Yeah.
Sheree.
Kevin and Sheree.
Yeah, they weren't. They both.
He
they
said,
both got great.
I need to show this hair, is what he
Yeah.
said.
Hey,
yeah.
you know what?
I'm not squishing this hair down.
That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
And so they want to find, like you said, they want to find the shield, but they're too bad at reading the map. They can't find it at all. And Trishelle and Bergie, they do ultimately make the first like stop at a bird calling station, and they get it right. Basically, all the ones that they guessed today, they get right. It's just a matter of how many of these pairs can find. I do have to think that this map and area where they were searching was possibly a little tricky because they all were kind of struggling, and in most of the other challenges where they have these maps, they get there pretty quick. So maybe it was just a different spot than what they're used to. I don't know. What do you think?
It seemed like they were kind of more in the backwoods areas because the only one, the one with the shield, was like the one that was like out in an open area that they I think have seen before, but it looked like they were fully like in the back of the cast because like Kevin and Sheree were like going to like where catering was coming in.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh, wait, we can't go here. We're about to be like, you cross a certain line, like you can't.
And then they ended up at like a horse barn.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is like, oh, that's how
Sheree
episode
was like-
7.
Yeah, Sheree was like, it smells
smell.
like shit.
Yeah, we should get out of here.
So funny. Yeah, and Bergie and Trishelle really don't go for the shield right away, and they're the ones that end
Yeah,
up
they have no
finding
problem
it.
making it. And the other two,
We're trying and couldn't
We're
even
trying
get
so
there,
hard
which is
and they
just
couldn't.
like so disappointing. So Trishelle and Bergie, they do end up getting to the shield bird first. They get it. They don't reveal on the radio that they've gotten it, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Sheree and Kevin continue to be lost after this. They give up. There's like a bird that sounds like a dog. It's not really bird calls at this point.
No.
We realize they're just like sound. It's a soundboard, and someone's recording them in a studio, and then they're playing them back. Sandra says it sounds like a dog, but it's not a dog. You've got like John inside reading off birds and locations like he's solving mysteries in Clue. It was Mr. Beaks in the marshes. Like it's just it's really ridiculous. And then finally Janelle and Peter do make their way to a bird calling station. Janelle looks fantastic. They're a cute little pair. I will say, like, it's giving big brother, big like little like sister brother energy.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think these two obviously they kind of hit it off. So we like that. We support it. But they do get there. I think the next picture we have is Trishelle showing off her like little glovelets.
Little arm,
She just traded one hat for another. Yeah, wrist warmer. Well,
I don't know what
palm
it is.
warmers.
Yeah, what is this?
She said she had chicken hands.
Yeah,
Yes.
what did she search on Amazon to find these?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then
Janelle doing a bird call.
I feel like this is like the equivalent of like the like terrible challenge pics you get from Big Brother that you're remembered by. She has to imitate a bird on this. But she did pick the best color, I think. The navy is really nice.
She did. It's very
Very
nice.
classy.
She looks great. She gets it right. And then basically by the end of this challenge, they earn $10,000 for the pot. So they get about 5 pairs right. Everyone's really happy and they kind of come back inside and Alan reveals to the group someone in the outside group found a shield.
Yeah.
But before that, we get these like quick little discussions from Peter where he's like, he says like, I've got a plan. Peter's got a plan. Peter with a plan. Probably going to happen each episode here. So his idea is, well, they're going to know there's someone out here has a shield. We won't say who. They'll probably guess it was Janelle, but we'll tell them we'll let them assume it was them, even though it was actually Trishelle and Bergie, so that the group inside, who they suspect the traitors are with, won't really know who it is. More people will have either the illusion of protection or actual protection, and then Peter's thinking that by doing this, he'll be able to like cover someone, who will like attempted to get murdered but won't actually be murdered, and he's gonna plant some seeds by telling who has the shield to kind of see if they take action based on it.
It's like a classic science experiment. It's like the targets are all inside. So let's just withhold the information and then we choose who to tell it to, so that way tell a lie to
figure out who acts on it.
This is an A/B test.
Yes, an A/B test for the marketing girlies.
In marketing or engineering.
Yes.
Okay.
We love an A/B test.
I guess technically ABC because there's 3 people.
That's true. ABC.
Same idea though, right?
ABCT test.
ABCT test, yes.
PDCT test.
And you lost us.
Parvati, Dan.
So
you don't have to take it that one extra beat. You just stop.
That
you
was
had
a
it
joke.
right.
Please clap.
Yeah, stop. Protect queer art. Oh, jeez. Put that outside my patio. Okay. So the prize pot's at $75,500. Sandra probably thinks it could and should be higher because we know that's all she's worried about.
She is like, I just need this coin, girl. I
Yeah,
have run
I need the
this
coin.
2 million gone out on my teeth right now.
Yeah.
Okay, literally.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've won a season of Survivor.
Yes.
for real.
So here's where we start planting the seeds. Now that we're inside, we're kind of in that post mission discussion phase before the round table. And so Bergie tells Kevin that he got the shield, but not to tell anyone. And so the kind of in the outside group agrees this is what we're going to do. And Janelle says like, we're not revealing anything. And so the inside people are thinking like, oh,
Don't know who has the shield. Yeah.
We don't know. And Janelle says that that's in the interest of the faithfuls. And so I have to also think that like being the one to say that probably didn't help her either. But
Right.
she's really trying. I think what she's doing is like, she thinks like, given what everyone knows about me, it's like gonna feel so obvious that I'm a traitor. So I'm going to work 3 times as hard to make it seem like I'm a faithful. Yeah. And that was probably her downfall.
That's that's classic hero's journey. That's like they will put that person in that position. Janelle has gone through this so many times.
Yeah, you're right.
From that same situation, the same position.
It's like her and Sandra both kind of have that, I think, like reputation. And I think she just fell victim to it. Mm-hmm. And so, Dan says that that's really selfish, whatever.
I mean, come on.
I don't care at this point. Yeah. So Trishelle pulls Bergie aside and she says, like, let's keep this quiet. We're going to keep it amongst ourselves. And then Peter kind of goes around and plants the seed. And so the 3 people he tells about the fake shield recipient, he tells
fake idol.
The fake, very fake. It's very fake hidden immunity idol. It's very that. Thank you. He tells Parvati, he tells Dan, and he tells CT because those are his 3 suspects. 2 out of 3, he's not he's not far off.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And so he's thinking like, okay, if they think I'm protected, and then he thinks that means they'll go after Bergie tonight because he thinks that that's who they want out next. Because Bergie's been kind of vocal with them about suspecting Dan. That if they act on that, they try to take out Bergie, and Bergie survives, that's gonna tell everyone, hey, it's one of these three people, because that's who we told. They acted on it. They got it wrong. Let's get one of them three out. I think that's very much going to play out next episode. So I do think we're set up for a really good episode 6. But unfortunately, we can't really see the results of that now. But we're going to see pretty soon if Peter's plan, if his plan works. Parvati says, no, I won't say a word. And then later we'll see that Parvati is instantly suspicious of this. She doesn't believe it. I think she's been involved in enough fake idol discussions in her career to know, like, when someone comes to you and tells you something so important, it's usually untrue. And I mean, she's right. And most times in Survivor, like, that's a red herring. Like, I'm telling you that with this illusion of trust, but really it's a lie.
Yeah.
Well, we also don't know how much they talk, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of background on these two.
How much they share information, because we're not really seeing it until now. So if we're assuming what we're seeing is semi-true, this would be odd, because Peter and Parv don't talk that much, perhaps, until now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I honestly, to Peter's credit, like, those would be who I would be most suspected.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan with like less experienced people.
Yes.
And it's not really a plan we've seen tried on the Traitors. And I think that kind of like in games like Big Brother and Survivor, like once a plan like this happens and everyone sees it, like you can't really do it again. So I gotta give it to Peter for trying this, and even Janelle says like that's pretty smart.
I think because it's Bergie, I think because Bergie and Trishelle won it, I think that's really what kind of inspired him to maybe do it, because no one will suspect that they won the shield.
Yeah, and Janelle has this track record of getting shield that it's like it is pretty believable that they would have gotten it.
Yeah.
For sure. Everyone knows that Janelle's gonna run for that shield.
Yes.
Yeah. And so kind of like the last thing we get before roundtable time is we have the group back at the board. We've got a bunch of faithfuls. We've got Janelle, we've got John, we've got MJ, and Janelle. This is where Janelle's saying like she thinks it's Dan. He's not giving us anything. He's playing like a traitor. He's not helping out, which I hear also said earlier. But the kind of like contrast to this is Kevin is kind of saying off to the side, like, Janelle's so vocal about who she thinks traitors are and is so consistently wrong that it's really got to be her. And he says a few times in the episode that Janelle's name will be floating in the morning, which we don't really hear. But then by the end of the night, by the roundtable, she's able to kind of persuade everyone else in a different direction. So he really thinks it's Janelle. And he says, like, before even they get there, I'm throwing out a name tonight, and it's gonna be Janelle.
Yeah. And you also kind of see MJ turn in this moment.
I know.
Yeah.
She talks to Janelle about suspecting Dan, and she tells us, but then she's like, well, Janelle also has gotten her hands dirty a lot.
So she's the Sandra today. She runs over.
She's the one running over.
She's the one and runs over. She pulls Dan in, and she says, like, hey, they're coming for you tonight. Janelle's gunning for you. She's gonna throw your name out. And this is where Dan says, like, I got to do something about it. He tells Parv, and Parv's like, well, Janelle's got to go. Yeah. And like, you basically see that scene of Dan and Parvati huddling where Parvati says Janelle's got to go. And that's like your cut to Roundtable, which is like, it's very ominous.
Yes. Isn't it interesting? I think it still runs that like Parvati definitely will trust Dan more than Phaedra.
Yeah.
Because you could take this as an opportunity to be like, get Dan out, but
game discussions with Phaedra like on the floor, like I'd say, like
I think it's because she's never in a position where she can be.
Yeah,
she's always with those housewives,
which is
always with like Sheree
potentially
and
what's
MJ.
protecting her.
Yeah,
like she's so in it with faithfuls, which is really what Suri did. Like Suri was always with faithfuls. She was surrounded by faithfuls. You never saw her in public, kind of like out on the floor with other traitors.
It wasn't until the numbers were so dwindled that she really only talked to another traitor when it was just her and Ari left.
So we should watch that and see if it continues to work, because that might need to be strategy.
Yeah, totally.
You got to surround, which it makes sense. It's not that hard to think about. So
Yeah.
we kind of get the setup for that, and then it's time for roundtable.
It's time for the round table. And Miss Girl
got her letter.
We got a butt first.
She's
It's time
back.
for the round
But
table.
first.
But first.
But
first. Yes, but first, Kate has finally arrived within the house. She hasn't made her appearance yet, but she. So I was really, I was wondering how they were gonna do it. If she was already gonna come in with already a baked-in role, but she comes into the chair. There is a letter, and on the letter it says, "Kate, you are faithful." So she's disappointed, but I think it's like you can't come in halfway through the game and be a traitor. I don't know. It just feels like that's such a clear target.
Such a huge advantage.
Yeah. Do you think that do you think it was planned for her to come episode 5? Do you think it was they wanted her back but she was busy?
I think it was a surprise. I think they wanted to come mid-show. So
that's what they're saying. The official word is like she was always going to be on.
She was always going to be on, but it was waiting to like come in. But I do think they would put her as a traitor if the numbers
She
were
had been there
already
from the
was out.
Or yes, if someone had already gotten out by now, then they would come in and make her a traitor.
Yeah, we don't see any real reaction to her and like kind of like wondering like what is she or not. I'm sure we'll get that next episode.
Yeah, totally.
So I'll be really
because
I think that's what I'm most curious to see.
Yes. So as they get into tonight's roundtable, it's really set up as it's going to be either Dan or Janelle. Janelle is convinced that Dan is out and Dan is ready to attack, really for the first time. We'll get to see kind of Dan not only defend himself, but also come for someone directly. So as they get to the round table, here she is, not Kate, but Alan comes in, now fully decked in his like undershirt. The birds of the feather has fully plumaged.
Yeah,
we love a theme.
This is like it's definitely on theme for the episode. This is like super niche that no one will get, and I know neither of y'all will, but like this is very much the like Matthew Bourne Swan Lake that you get at the end of the Billy Elliot movie. Like it's that version of a bird. I mean, it's also going nowhere.
I mean, it's giving.
You lost me.
It's giving Moira Rose too.
Very.
Moira Rose.
The listeners will appreciate that more.
Yeah. So Alan comes in and basically is like, before he gets started, #but first, he pulls out a new chair and says a tsunami is headed, which I didn't think about was a below deck.
Absolutely. I got that. Come on.
100%.
Come on.
Yes,
it's a below deck reference.
Yes, it's a below deck.
Oh my god.
So
how could you not know?
I'm not a below deck. I'm not.
Well, I was just trying to think like, what could this be? Tsunami. I was like, oh, Kate, below deck. So funny.
Come on, Kate.
So Kate has arrived, and everyone is obviously gagged. Janelle is like, oh my god, Kate, and she is just ready in the confessional. Before she did come in, she was kind of disappointed in everyone, saying that like no one has caught a traitor yet, which is very funny. Which is very funny how. Because she also didn't catch a traitor until later. So it's just very, very interesting. So they start kind of finally having this roundtable discussion. So Kevin is the first one to speak because he has said that I'm going to put a name out there. And he puts out Janelle's name and says that Janelle has a pattern of bringing names out. She has gotten people banished and they've been wrong. And she's been able to rally people in the evening. He makes this connection that like Janelle's name always gets brought up in Banishment, in Roundtable, and then it kind of like fizzles away by the end of the day, by the next day, because she's already rallied enough people to pick someone else. Yes, she's able to rally people in the evening and shift into another. And Janelle has admitted that like she's always wrong, right? But she kind of says like, if I was a traitor, I wouldn't even be putting names out there. And Bergie kind of like follows up on that and says that, if there was anyone, a real traitor wouldn't be throwing out names like Janelle is, because Janelle's like trying to help find them. While
She's
this
working
is,
overtime.
yes.
Lots of names. So many
While this
names.
is happening, Kevin also said that like I would like to not be interrupted because he was like because I've noticed in all these roundtables people just love to throw in. As he's accusing Janelle, Kate whispers to MJ like, "What's his name? What's the name of the guy talking?" And MJ's like, "Kevin," and then he fully is like, "Kate, excuse me." That was a big red flag for me.
I was.
Kate, are you listening?
Oh,
Are you listening? Kate, are you listening? And like the irony, obviously, of her just being like, "What's his name? I don't know anyone."
yeah. We
But
don't have
also-
name tags here.
Yes, we don't
Yeah,
have
he's
name
not
tags.
in the Bravo universe, you know?
Yes, he's not. He's in the Netflix
He's in the
universe.
A
Netflix
Netflix-averse.
Yes. So it's just it's such a red flag because Kevin has already proven that he is also boldly making wrong accusations. So it's just like and also I think he is acting upon too, like he knows that Kate is going to be an important vote because it could be another vote for Janelle. So he was really just like I want you, Kate, to listen to everything I'm saying. But it was just a red flag for me. I didn't like that.
It was icky.
Yes. And
like it.
so Janelle asks Kate because she's new, like just from like vibes here, who do you think is the traitor? Oh no, Kate. Kate was the one who asked Janelle, like, who do you think is a traitor since you've been brought up? And this is Janelle on a rampage now. So Janelle obviously says Dan, but then also says CT, who is acting strange, and then says, and I think Sandra is a traitor. And I think once she named CT, but especially because naming Sandra, that sealed her deal.
It was over.
Sandra was
over.
done with her.
Why throw out 3 names? Why?
When you're focusing just on
yeah, why? Because you risk splitting votes.
Yep.
You risk pissing more people off. I do think you're right. Like this is. I
when you've
don't
said
understand.
when you've
Too much
said that
information.
Dan plays the numbers game, and now you just lost the numbers because I do
Yeah.
think that's what we like about Janelle, right? She's no nonsense when she plays games, but that does not lead to
She
numbers.
came out swinging.
I know.
And I think this, like, you know, last episode we talked about the 3 groups and the gamers, and now it's like
What happened to them?
the
gamers
gamers
are
They-
done. The
They've
gamers are done.
imploded because of this,
Yes.
and it's just like, why? Why did we
Yeah.
do this? You had the power.
I know.
You had the power. You had the experience. You had the strength. You had the skills.
You had
the strategy.
You did. And it's the hubris, I think, because I genuinely think they know that the traitors are among themselves.
I mean,
Yeah,
there
and
has
they
to be a
can't-
traitor amongst them. There has to be.
If not all, at least like half. I mean, like,
Yeah.
even
I mean,
Peter
and
says
they're
it. It's
right.
like the guys are all dwindling. And so the only logical person to be a traitor is Dan. It was in this episode. I really was like, it's so obvious that it's Dan, right?
Yes,
if he really has
very.
not said anything or like has not given anyone, it really has been obvious from the very beginning. So Sandra does not take it well, obviously, that her name is now being dragged. So she kind of brings that up, right? That like that all the days that they have been in sync. And because that the gamers are falling apart, Sandra now says that like it's so very obvious now that it's you if you're just throwing people under the bus like this. John, the voice of reason, who I just love that now they're like, now that we know John, he really is just like a calm, like voice of reason on the show. So funny. But he kind of brings in the assessment that Janelle is loud, but that does not mean that like Janelle is the traitor. And
She's loud,
throws
but
out-
she's consistent.
yeah, she's loud, but
Yeah.
she's consistent. She says that Kevin is the one that keeps going to different people. And so John says that it's Kevin. And so
Yeah. To back up one moment to the Sandra thing, I think
Yes.
that
oh,
what you were
well,
saying about like, you know, the game, it's got to be amongst themselves. What happened,
Mm-hmm.
Jeff saying like what happened to the gamers. I think at this point, Sandra's reading the room and thinking like, okay, Dan and Janelle are going for each other. And now my name's in the mix. Are more people team Janelle? Are more people going to go
Yes,
for Dan or more people going to
exactly,
go for Janelle? And she probably knows because of that discussion with MJ, they're going to go for Janelle. So she's like, let me throw it back. And I bet that she doesn't really suspect it's Janelle because of how
Yeah.
they've been playing. But I do think from a self-preservation view, she's like, well, let me just throw it back. So,
Sandra doesn't want to put herself out there. She doesn't want to be in the center of the attention.
yeah.
So
So
by taking
she had no
risks.
choice. I think she had no choice.
It's like fully acting in self-defense.
Yeah.
You know. Kevin is now in the fire. This was when Kevin and kind of comes for Kate a little bit. And then Kate now is like, okay, so who else? I mean, now it really is nice because it forces everyone
It's a good moderator. She's a great moderator.
Yeah.
It forces everyone to talk because she has not seen how it all has come out. It forces everyone to be like, who are your names? I almost wish that she was like, can we just go around the circle and be like, what are your names?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well, I mean, that's just voting, but sure. Who should
like,
go home and why?
should
Again,
go
we
home
just
and
need
why?
it.
This is when Peter also suspects Dan. This is when Peter lays in thick that there is a guy in the Traitors and he's contributed the least. Janelle kind of then joins that and says that Dan is not acting like a faithful, he's acting like a traitor, which he is.
Very true.
He is acting like it because he is one. But I even think like it's very if Dan was a faithful, A, he would not be on the show. But B,
I'm telling you.
he would definitely be just like Janelle, I think. Or he would be less strategic and more maybe like Peter. He would be hatching plans to catch a
A
traitor.
little more calculated.
But it
I
would be
think, in
obvious.
how he
People
talks
would
about
know.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he's trying to catch
He'd be more
a traitor.
active.
Yeah. Because even like you could say Peter could probably have also been laying low, but he is like actively talking to people, being like, these are who I think it is.
He's working. Yeah.
Yeah. And Trishelle kind of adds on to the Dan situation that's like, if you are a faithful, you're not doing a good job because you're not helping trying to find who the traitors are. So before the voting starts, Janelle says that she has the biggest target in the round table and is really pointing at Dan. Like, if you just give us one name, just give us who, like, contribute, be a part of this. Who is the name that you think is a traitor? And Danelle says
course.
Janelle. Danelle.
What else?
Gosh.
Danelle.
Dunno.
Dan
What else is he
says
gonna say
Janelle.
though? That was kind of like a setup for him.
It
just
is,
to throw her
yeah,
name out,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
And Dan plays, which he does really well in the 2 seasons of Big Brother. He is like, I really trusted you. We were friends. And I think I was blinded by that friendship because now you've led the charge on so many of these banishments that have gone wrong. And I really can't trust you. And if you survive tonight, I don't think I can trust you anymore.
And several other people use that line when they explain their vote, which is
Totally.
just
Pile on.
Gross.
Now, wait. There is a segment that Janelle says was cut out of the round table. where
Yes.
allegedly she went for Parv.
She
as well.
named Parv it. And
she put them all out there.
yeah.
Well, we heard her say CT,
CT,
and Sandra,
yes.
but we didn't hear the
We
discussion
didn't hear
on
anything
Parvati,
about Parvati.
which makes
Yeah.
me wonder if they're trying to protect Parvati's edit.
I think they are. I think they're trying to focus the story to just like the heat is on Dan.
Yeah. Well, they
So
like
we'll
to
see.
they like to narrow in on 2 people and kind of pit them
Exactly.
together at the round
Yeah,
table.
I'm shocked we didn't get a cliffhanger from this, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what Traitors loves a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
for
We
sure.
kind of do, but it's like
I mean, it's a 45-second commercial.
yeah. So we
And
finally
it lingers on Sheree.
Sheree, I know. We finally get to the voting and everyone's going around. And the majority of the votes are either between Dan or Janelle. They really are in the hot seat.
The moment.
In this moment, Sandra votes for Janelle for the reason because she was brought up, but then for the reasons that everyone has brought up. And Janelle is obviously not taking this well, which is why we love her. Sandra drinks water, and I'm just going to show you the transcript of what happened.
There it is.
Janelle says, "Drink that water. You're nervous, aren't you?" Sandra,
Can we get
"No."
a reenactment? Here? Who's going to be Janelle? I think you're Janelle.
I think
be
you're Janelle.
Janelle.
I'm Sandra. I can get loud too. What the fuck? That's my Sandra. I have to get into that.
Drink that water. You're nervous, aren't you?
No, my mouth is dry.
Okay, Sandra.
You're a traitor.
You're a fucking traitor.
You're a fucking traitor.
You're a traitor, bitch.
You're the biggest fucking traitor here, so fuck off.
You fuck off. All right, we
Very
just got
good.
demonetized in that moment.
And you get cutaways to Parvati, her
Parvati
trademark squint reaction.
Parvati.
Cursed
It's like-
and pressed.
When you're just loving what's happening, but you can't show it.
Show
So
it.
you're just like,
oh my gosh! Because then she's like, "Look at these two dumb faithfuls
Yeah, and
going after
going
each other.
at it."
Yeah, the most ironic thing about it, and the most iconic thing about it, is that they're both wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both wrong, and I bet they know it. I bet they know it. It's so like. Normally, I would say. At least we got like with Peppermint. I was like, well, we got a good episode. We got a good exit.
We got a great episode, but Janelle,
I'm not there with Janelle yet, but this is a really good. I mean, I think this is going to live
round
on.
table is
This is
really
going to live on in Janelle and Sandra lore for
absolutely.
a long time, and I think for that we should be happy.
we should be celebrating
for our mothers.
Yes.
For our mothers, yes.
So the votes are split up as so. The votes for Dan, it's 9-5. Yeah, what a way to make a living. And the votes for Dan are Janelle, Bergie, John, Peter,
Trishelle.
and Trishelle. Everyone else votes for Janelle. Kate is like, Kate literally goes, from what I've seen watching Big Brother, you go with the majority for the first episode.
Should say
sorry,
from what
Janelle.
I've seen from watching recent Big Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yikes.
Janelle is banished.
Banished.
And when she gets to the circle, she
All
says,
are banished.
Yeah.
God.
She says she was competitive, loyal, and honest. I'm a faithful, you idiots. And Bergalicious
Berg.
is so mad.
It's like when a 13-year-old
I
loses
know.
their cool in the classroom and like forgets that there's decorum.
Yes,
he just
and he's
shouts
like,
out the
"Fuck off!"
Yeah.
Like literally, he is.
I hope you're
so-
happy.
I hope you're happy. It's.
I hope you're
so-
happy now.
It's so cute. It was so adorable. Truly,
It's very immature, but it's cute.
it's so cute. He is just like, you're trusting
That's
the
what they want.
traitors.
That's
That's
what
what
they
they
want.
want.
You're doing
You're
what they
falling
want.
for it. I'm sure he was like fed up hearing Sheree getting like the last
my
bit
God,
every single
no.
episode. But then Sheree was like, I was judging by her actions. Purely by her
what
actions.
is Trishelle? Trishelle says, yeah, that's
And
pretty
Trishelle
obvious.
says, yeah, that shows. Yeah, like that showed. And Trishelle is like crying. You guys, they are playing as if like world peace is at stake. And it's so funny. And I love it.
They're
And we
indeed.
How many times has Trishelle lost a challenge? She probably
Oh
really wants to win.
MJ was so flabbergasted. I think because she knew she suspected Dan this entire time, but still was swayed by Janelle.
She and Larsa were the only two to vote for him in episode 3.
Yeah.
So she's probably thinking like, oh dang,
God.
if that ends up, I mean, yes.
It's very
Yeah.
tough.
And did you catch this line from Alan about like you've lost a piece, like another chest? Did you catch this?
I knew it was like oeuvre of chess. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, you've lost another in the game of chess. You've lost another piece, and I was waiting for him to say, "You've just lost your queen."
Oh.
But he made a comment about Kate being the new queen.
Kate's the new queen, which
Yeah.
that at least in hindsight acknowledges that Janelle was the last one. So we're
Janelle
okay
was,
with that.
yes. So they kind of they decompress at the Interior Illusions Lounge after the banishment.
Yeah,
And
gosh.
MJ and
the gold
and-
bar.
Yes.
The
And
gold
MJ
bar.
and Kevin are very much like, yep, we fucked it up again.
Exactly.
Exactly. Dan was saying that surviving this banishment was harder than his funeral in Big Brother.
Whatever.
Give me a
Whatever,
break.
Dan.
Whatever.
And he
Dan.
says, if I survive tonight, then I will take.
Still, he
we'll
still
take
will
it
not give them a
But
name.
he still will not. Exactly.
like, yeah,
and it
I-
ends up becoming the cliffhanger of the episode. That's like, who will Dan name? And it's like, at this point, people are going to vote you out.
I mean, it's more a question of like, who is Dan gonna murder? I think at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So Kate is asking about what happened with Ekin-Su because she was looking at the players and was like, wow, I could have met Ekin-Su, like blah, blah, blah. And then they told her like she was poisoned. And immediately Kate is like, oh, well, I'm not drinking anyone. Like what Parvati.
Pour
like,
your own
Parvati's-
cup.
Yeah, pour
Parvati's
your own
offering wine.
Yeah,
at
what
the same
Parvati's-
she
time.
said, yeah,
Wine.
Parvati's name comes up and she's like, don't take a drink from Parvati, which is kind of like this weird little like,
Because like
Drop we
I
get.
wonder if Parvati was like, because that happened, I tried to like now maybe she's trying to be like, does anyone want more drinks? Like she's like doing it to be like, no, I was just doing it.
Yeah, I always offer drinks.
I'm the person offering drinks. That doesn't mean I poisoned her. Well, Kate, now everyone is like, she barely has gotten in this game and she's already snuffed out Parvati.
And what if she does?
And I think she might. Who knows? Peter finally reveals his master plan to the other bros. And by bros, I mean John.
It is kind of, it's like that. Did you watch Squid Game: The Challenge? Mm-mm. There was like a bro
bros?
group, and there was like a bro alliance, and there was like an old doctor guy who was like part of the bro.
Part of the
It's
bros.
very that.
It's kind of similar.
Thanksgiving. So that's when Peter was like, I told these 3 people that I have the shield, but Bergie has the shield. So we'll find out that if they try to kill me, or if they try to kill Bergie, because they're convinced, Peter's convinced Bergie will be the next one out.
Yeah, and John says like, "Oh, that's a great plan, young
Yeah.
chap." Like,
Yeah. He's like, are you interested in a career in the House of Commons? So they go into the turret.
oh, turret time. Oh wait, but we do get Kate asking, which is so.
Oh,
What
Kate
did she
wants.
say?
Kate wants.
Can I take Janelle's room? She doesn't need it.
Someone says why, and she said, "Cause she's gone."
She's gone.
Like we needed to be.
As
the
if there's
sound bites.
any room to take in that house or in that,
Yeah.
that castle. They're not staying there. We know
You're
that.
convinced that they're not staying there. They're in
We
like
know
trailers.
they're
And
not
they're like,
staying.
oh, you're not.
They're staying in a hotel.
Wow.
And the UK version, they actually show them leaving in
Leaving
those,
in and out. Okay.
in those cars every time. Anyway,
Anyway, we are
turret.
in the turret, and finally, the queens, the mothers have spoken, and they're like, Dan,
you gotta
you
gotta
gonna
give
do?
a name.
And
This
he
is-
says,
us a
He
name.
says maybe not, and then what does Phaedra say?
Phaedra
Hey,
says,
he's
"You're-
doing it with us.
Yeah, he's doing it with us. You're doing it with us." Because he's like, I don't know who. And she's like, girl, you're doing it to
This
us
is
right
the
now.
one place you can give a damn name.
Yes. So they are really laying it on thick that Dan has to step it up in the faithfuls. Mm-hmm. Phaedra says, "Get your suit ready because I'm going to be embalming myself if you keep doing this." But she is not an actress. Let's not.
Not an
forget.
actress.
Not
No,
an actress. Not
never.
a
And not a writer.
Not a writer. No, absolutely not. So they bring up the shield issue that no one knows who owns the shield. Parvati says, yeah, actually, Peter came up to me and said that he has the shield, but I think he's lying.
She says girl.
Yeah, very girl. This look
Girl.
she's giving is very girl.
And Parvati, this has happened once before, as Twitter was quick to find the clips that Amanda from Fans vs. Favorites did the same thing to her. They were basically telling her, like, yeah, you're going home. You're the vote tonight. And she's like, no. Nice try, but no, stop. So they're trying to figure out, obviously, who to murder. Dan doesn't think that Peter is that savvy, but he was like, because he told me the same thing too. And Dan is really pushing for the murder of someone to get the heat off of him. So he is saying, I think it should be Bergie.
Which, why Bergie? If
So-
Bergie already was onto you, wouldn't that
Right.
confirm? Why?
That's the
Bergie?
thing. I think
Yeah,
I
might be
think
too
he's
obvious.
convinced that it's Peter that has the shield. I think he's like, no, I really think Peter has the shield.
Yeah, he thinks he's outsmarting these people who are trying to outsmart him.
Yes. So he's like, then let's do someone else who has the heat on. I think it's because maybe they haven't really had they haven't played this card yet. They've been avoiding killing people who has been bringing their
up.
names up.
Yeah, and there's just not enough.
There's not
people.
enough numbers.
And there's
now.
not enough numbers.
There's no more like random kills, basically.
Yes. So Peter
I mean, I
Bergie,
think Kevin would actually be a good
I think
murderer at
Ke-
this
yeah.
point because it's like
he's not helping.
all the people he was going after are gone. So who's going after Kevin? Like, I think
Yes.
that's what I would say.
But also, with that logic, it could be that Kevin could be a traitor because he's always so wrong
So and making it through.
in making it through. Yeah. So Parvati brings up John, but Dan saying, I would rather risk it
And getting it
kill
wrong,
Bergie.
basically, yeah.
Yes. And so they ask Phaedra, which is so funny because they're like, we know how much you love Bergie. And Phaedra says, "That's my burgalicious."
I know.
my
I love it.
And so that is the cliffhanger we're left behind with. Who will die? Will it be burgalicious? Or will it be John, I think? Or someone else?
Well, I think
they
really
bring
what
up
we're
John, Sandra, or
we
MJ
see.
as the safe
I
choices.
think we even get a clip of Bergie. We know Bergie's protected.
We know Bergie's protected
So what the
because
real
in the
cliffhanger
trailer-
is like, who's he gonna try to
Yeah.
murder, and
Yes.
does it work or not?
Does he
That's
try,
really the question.
If he tries and fails on Bergie, we know that because Bergie's still there in the
Bergie's
next
in-
episode.
And Bergie has a shield, so he was
He has
never
the
at
shield.
risk.
He's not at
But
risk.
everyone's still there on the next episode.
Do we see them all?
Yeah. People have done the count. They're like, that's exactly the amount of people. So
Good. Next week, Dan's
think-
getting the chop.
I really really want
yeah.
Dan to go.
Is Peter the Bachelor going to dethrone?
Will Pilot Pete
Dan.
dethrone Evil Dan?
That is the question.
That's
Pilot Pete is ready for takeoff.
yeah. And
sure.
and co-captain Janelle.
Oh my gosh.
She got furloughed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. All right, let's decide
She missed her flight.
which level of plumagerie are we voting
Oh my gosh.
as Alan's bias?
It's round table Alan for me.
You like a stripped down, feathers flocked.
Feathers. Like I said,
Yeah.
for my reference that I shared.
I am going full look, every layer, mission.
Me too. I'm a Morris Moore
Alan.
girl. I love
Yeah.
this hat. I love this cape. And it was because he really just had to perch there the entire episode with, these
Yeah.
birds that come up to it. So it's like, let me look cute.
I think it's
Yeah.
it's inside for me. Let me borrow that top.
Minimalism is out, maximalism is in.
It's the year of Max. Yes, 24.
It is layers and hats and birds and everything on top
Absolutely.
of each other. Yeah.
Okay, girls. After this episode, who are you
Oh.
most faithful to?
Last week it was
Now that our queens have
last
left.
week it was 3 on Sandra, right?
It was 3 on Sandra last week. What do you think?
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna listen.
I'm flipping between Sandra and Phaedra as my as my two. You know, we did a lot of us pick Phaedra earlier in the season. I still think Sandra's in a really good spot.
I think so too.
So I think I'm gonna stay parked on Sandra because I want to stay consistent for a little bit.
Okay. Arjo?
I'm gonna pick Burgalicious. Our first man.
Wow.
I think
And this
Berg.
podcast.
I think Berg could play out this goodwill for a long time. More so, I think, than Peter,
I was gonna say why Berg and not Peter.
because I think Peter's gonna be a target.
He's too far out.
Very
He's gonna
Right.
take a shot and then
Whether it
be a
works or
target.
not.
Yes. I almost think if Dan does get out and they do have an opportunity to recruit, they might recruit Peter like in an airy moment like last year, where
I
it's
could see
like
that.
we've seen who is able to stand on their own.
Yeah, if Peter takes that big swing next week, he better have a shield to go to bed
Apparently,
with.
Bergie's still with his girlfriend that he chose from Love Island. So everyone is just like, we love our king. So I'll join the trend. He's a
Alright.
cutie.
King
Bergalicious.
Bergie.
King Bergie.
King Bergie.
Bergie finger.
All right.
Oh, can I be Team Janelle? Can you be Team someone who's not in the game?
No, unless you think she's coming back.
Hey, next season.
No, this season, unless she's being resurrected.
I think just go ahead and pick Kate. Just pick Kate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Kate.
wild
Wow.
card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just like last time, Kate's going to be here for a good minute. I mean, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes left. So I'll say Kate. I think Kate came in, and I think Kate really handled that roundtable well. I loved
totally.
what she did at that roundtable. I thought it was really smooth, especially for someone who doesn't do this style of gameplay very often. And I think we're getting big, like, second half narrator out of her. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pick Kate.
She's taking the reins from because Janelle did a lot of
Yeah.
producer Janelle, right?
Queen support queens.
Producer Janelle.
Yes. So when
Queen.
one
Kate,
video
Janelle,
ends,
handshake handoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we did get a listener voicemail this week.
We did? Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah, we should we drop that in here?
I'll drop it in.
Yeah.
We did. Well, I'll drop it in at the end of the episode.
We got some background on we got some education on the challenge.
We were educated by listener of the show, Casey. You may know her from, did you read the group chat?
Other member of the Ampliverse.
She is our subject matter expert on all things the challenge. So she gave us like a 3.5 minute rundown of what the challenge is. So
if we have any listener experts on Love Island,
if you're a Love Island Bachelor Nation, please rise up. Tell us
2 gaps in our
you have
SME.
to tell us what do you think about this? Pete
tell me what makes this person
'Cause
special.
From what I understand, Pete picked a girl, but then Pete told the girl he loved her, but then dumped her for the final. And then the girl that he picked by the reunion time was not with that girl anymore that he picked. He ended up going with 5th place. And now they're still together. Yeah, it's just I heard it was really messy. I remember the PR for Pete being like, well, can't get any messier than this. And I think it continues.
Couldn't recover from that.
Yeah. So
okay, we did it, Joes.
We did it, Joes.
That was a hard one.
I know. It is hard, but I am so excited.
We'll bounce back next week.
I need to see the
fallout.
Dan. The fallout.
Dan. Next event, we will avenge. We will avenge Janelle's banishment.
We have to.
Yeah, we will.
All right, Joes. We'll see you next week. Until then, stay faithful. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, Trader Joe's. This is Casey. I'm calling from Austin, and I wanted to give you a little education on the challenge. So the challenge has been going on since like 1998. We're going on 20 plus years of this show. And it started off as like this Road Rules All-Stars. And then, because Road Rules was the MTV show where they lived in the RV and they would drive around. But then they were like, hey, we don't have enough Road Rules people. Let's bring in some real world people. And so then they would have the real world people, challenge the Road Rules people. And then it eventually just became the challenge and over time. And then they got this host, TJ. He became the host forever. And this has just been MTV's like thing. So since there were so many seasons of the real world, they would just bring in random people from random seasons. But obviously, like, they don't film the real world anymore. So, or at least like they haven't in years. And so a lot of these people are getting too old to be on this show. So now in the last couple years, they've brought in Big Brother people. They've brought in Survivor people. They've brought in, other people from other MTV shows. So it's gotten a little mixed, but like the history, the people that have been on this show, like Bananas. Johnny Bananas has won 7 times. Johnny Bananas is also known for he won and he was able to, he could either keep all the money for himself or he could split it with his teammate who was a woman, and he said, no, I'm going to keep the money. So that, part of that got him on House of Villains, Mr. Bananas, but and then CT, he's also won 7 challenges. So they are like, big players. And the challenge is very much like these other shows. It's not only physical to where they're doing these crazy, things that they have to do, like the weird courses and like having to jump off stuff, but then there's also puzzles. And so it's very much like all of these other shows, and there are a lot of politics, a lot of just a lot of strategizing, just like a Big Brother, just like a Survivor. There's just a lot of strategy and politics and gameplay. So the challenge is really great for something like Traitors. And to bring in CT and Bananas is like an obvious, because these two are like really big players. And Trishelle, she's been on a couple challenges. I don't think she's ever won, but she was from Real World. And she's just like a household name in like, you know, kind of the millennial real world viewers. So I think that's where she comes from. But, you know, and I think I've mentioned it all, but this is over 3 minutes now. But I just wanted to give you, you know, some education on the players of the challenge. Thank you.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.